All right, sounds good. Welcome to it. It's the morning after. Matt Smith, Kyle Reese. Normally we have a show on Sundays, and I take it and I clip from our show, Kyle, that we talk about the Buffs on Sunday mornings on 104.3 The Fan in Denver, and post them out there. People have been enjoying it, so figure we kind of get together today on a Sunday after a massive Colorado win last night, and just I'm dying to get your thoughts on the game last night. 38-31 in overtime. CU over Baylor. For those who don't know, Kyle, former high school football coach, played college football at UNLV, obviously. And, he and I have hosted a show together now every week for over 2 years, I think, at this stage. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's probably more accurate. I had a cup of coffee at UNLV and
gotta
played
be nice,
Division II
dog.
ball at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri.
I was trying to gloss your resume. It's all
I
good.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was there though. I was there for
I
sure.
know. I know. I seen the receipts. I seen the receipts.
No doubt.
So let's talk about this game last night. So 38-31 overtime, one of the wildest finishes that I've seen in a college football, maybe football game ever, quite frankly. Personal experience. So 5 minutes left to go. I make my way down, and it is a zoo last night. And because it was 31-24, there was a bunch of fans that were streaming for the exits kind of early on the Baylor side of it. And it wasn't like there was a bunch of people leaving. It was just everybody had gotten into the stairwell to be the first ones out. And so it was like tough navigating your way down there. And then I finally got down there. And as I got down there, I'm right under the field goal post as Baylor misses a kick, which that thing never had a chance. I mean, that was never even close. And
Yeah.
then, Colorado gets the ball back, kind of a get out of jail free, because there was the 4th and 8, Kyle, right? Where they decided to go for it instead of taking the delay game and punting it and trying to pin them deep, which if they lose that game, that's probably the storyline. And they kind of get bailed out. And then Shador with the miracle play to LaJonte, they win in overtime. Just overall, we'll start overall thoughts, from last night.
Well, first of all, there's the grit factor, right? You don't have two on that team, you don't win the game. You don't have 12 on that team, you do not win the game. And
Right.
so, for as much as you may think about the program outside the stadium, maybe how they present themselves, I saw a gritty football team. I saw a tough football team. Sanders hung in there. He made a ton of throws. He made throws on the run. He made throws under duress. He
Right.
made throws moving to his left. So I was really impressed with him. But just the grit to pull that game out after I thought, listen, Baylor came in and gave them their best game. That's another program that is also looking to revive itself as well. So, I just thought they played a really gritty game. It's hard to take anything away from them, even with the opponent being what they are.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was gutsy. It was really gutsy. I mean, the special teams mistakes killed them in the first half because of the
Yeah.
kick return for touchdown, the punt return. You basically gave up 13 points. If not for those two scores, you're probably up 17-14 at half. It was strange though. The offense struggled. The offense struggled. They couldn't get to their quick game. Shador wasn't sharp, I didn't think, and even he admitted as much after the game. But they struggled to get their quick game. The running game, I thought Augusta ran really well in the second half. Welch had some good moments, got his first career touchdown, but altogether, I wonder if it's part of this too, right? Like they've changed up a lot of what they've done formationally the last 2 weeks. They're the tight ends on the field more, running out from under center, running from the pistol. Do you think it's a situation where maybe there's just a lack of familiarity with some of the new stuff they're trying to implement? So maybe the execution is just a little off because it maybe isn't what they repped, all summer.
Um, No, I don't know if I see that. I see the vision. I know it's really like almost sacrilegious to say that about a Pat Shermer offense, that I do see the vision.
Only for
But I
Broncos
see
fans.
them starting to layer things. I see them doing things in the run game. I saw them put some counter in, some split zone last night, right? So they were doing some things differently up front. And you're still going to have some trouble in the run game going up against that defensive coordinator who made his living on coordinating national championship defenses by being extremely vanilla pre-snap, right? We're still looking for some of that pre-snap motion. You saw a little bit of it, but I think it was more or less to get to their boot and perimeter game.
Yeah.
But I see them starting to layer things. So perhaps it's a little bit that they're unfamiliar with the concepts, but they're also kind of cycling in personnel. I think they found something in Welch. I think they found something in Miller, right? So it's I think those are
Which
guys that you
Miller?
can start to build with, you know.
Which Miller?
Well, yeah, Draylon. Yeah, am I saying that right?
Yeah, Draylon's right, but Omarion also changed the complexion of the game in the
I
first half.
forgot he was on the team, dude. Where'd he
They're
come
loaded
from?
at receiver. They are
Oh,
loaded at receiver.
man.
And last night, obviously, LeJontay Wester with the play of the game, and we'll just bounce around like we normally do on our show.
Sure.
Probably would be remiss if we made it more than 5 minutes without mentioning the Heisman front runner, right? Travis Hunter was just ridiculous again. There's a moment in the third quarter where they're down 24-17. I put out there on social media, they need to start looking for 12 down the field. And they didn't that drive. They went 3 and out. And then the very next drive, they come back and Travis makes 2 enormous catches. The first one, unbelievable ball from Shador in the middle of 3 guys. And then the next play, Shador on a scramble drill throws it to him on the sideline. He kind of gets crunched, like sandwiched between 2 guys. I thought he was going to go out to get his head checked. And the very next play, Shador pocket breaks down, right? Kind of overthrows him. And Travis finds this next gear to go get it. And they eventually tie the game. But I run out of words to describe this guy, Kyle. He's unlike anything that we've ever seen, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've watched a lot of college football, and I was thinking about it this morning. Like, I saw Reggie Bush, I saw the Peter
Right.
Ward, I saw Michael Vick, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I really lived through some really Charles Woodson. I
Right.
saw it, and he doesn't play second fiddle to any of them. The
No.
one thing that we haven't talked about with Travis Hunter, and I think it's one of the ultimate compliments that you can pay a football player or maybe even any athlete. You saw how tough he was last night.
Oh yeah.
He's tough. I mean, physically tough. And he made really physical plays on defense, obviously,
Right.
right? But then, like you said, he took some licks on offense. I don't think there's a higher compliment that you can pay to him.
No, no. And then so we're down on the field and we've got, it's pouring on us by the end of the game. It did rain, go figure.
I'll be damned.
I'll be and it was wet. It was
That would have been, by the way, right?
yeah.
You talk about things we would have talked about had
Yeah.
they lost that game. Things now, listen, you know me, because I had some stuff in my back pocket, right? I
Yeah.
absolutely had the 4th down in my back pocket, right? We absolutely had the conversation about preparation early on in the week in my back pocket.
Right.
There were some things, right? And they
Yeah.
still bear exploring and discussing, but
Yeah.
those were absolutely loaded, bro. I had them loaded up.
Oh yeah, but I'll tell you, I felt like for the elements, at least last night, they didn't really struggle with the elements. I didn't think. I thought they had that part handled well. I mean, for Shador to make that throw rolling to the left from like the 50 with the perfect touch on it in that type of a driving rain, that was nuts, man. What a special play that was. That was crazy. And then LeJontay to get his hands under it. I mean, that was unbelievable. But yeah, anyway, we'll get back to that. But Travis, he's just, special when you see it. You can recognize greatness easily because it looks different. And that's what it's like watching him play. And there isn't anybody in the country playing a higher level of football right now. There just isn't. And I just continually have to pinch myself sometimes that we're actually getting a chance to watch this type of a talent up close and personal. Because Kyle, I mean, talk about where we were 2 years ago, talking about, you should probably investigate the Mountain West. I mean, they probably would finish bottom half of the Mountain West 2 years ago to where, you are now, not necessarily like overall team success, even though they're so much more improved. It's not even worth the discussion. The point is though, I would have never thought we would have been able to see that type of talent. And I find myself like at different moments of the game, just stopping and having to be appreciative and grateful of what we're getting to see and kind of getting to see it up close for at least a small part of his journey. Cause he's one of those guys that what's stopping him? Certainly not the guy in front of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what's
And he's
stopping?
not stopping himself because the kid has it together,
Yeah.
right? And that's what makes him really easy to cheer for because he's a really likable personality. He's one of the silver linings and sometimes in what can be a gray cloud, you know?
Yeah.
And you're right. We do have to take a moment to appreciate what we are witnessing because this program would have never been able to sniff a player like
Oh
Travis
man.
Hunter with standing alone, right? So I don't know how this prime ride is going to end. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it looks like 2 weeks from now, man. That's how polarizing this thing can be. So sometimes you just, what, let's smell the roses. I appreciate Travis Hunter. I appreciate Prime. And that was a really exciting game last night. And you haven't had that in that town for a long time. So thanks, I guess. I think
100%.
that's how you put a bow on that. Thank you.
Yeah, and the defense, Kyle. I mean, we can talk
Uh,
about, we've talked about like, is this team improved over a shadow beyond a shadow of a doubt?
sure.
I mean, I just saw today a number, and look, we take Pro Football Focus stats with a grain of salt, everybody. Trust me. Like I always laugh, and we always talk about this. Who are the guys grading out the PFF college reports? Like they can't be paying very much for that. They're definitely not the crack squad of football evaluators. The point is, though, they do have Colorado right now as the 15th ranked rushing defense in the country. And last night, you had to stop Baylor's rushing attack. And outside of the quarterback, and they let the quarterback run beat him again, right? And especially on that 4th and 1, just like the CSU play last week. But by and large, Kyle, you've got 3 NFL corners on this team. The play at the end of the game to go up 31-24, Baylor scored the very first passing touchdown CU's given up all year, 4 games into it. That's impressive, man. Like even if they haven't played the most dominant passing attacks, if you think about it, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy, Kyle.
Well, listen,
Like those
yeah,
CU
I'm
teams of the
glad you brought up
past,
the defense.
the CU teams of the past, wouldn't have been able to do that, even if they weren't passing teams, is kind of my point. Like we can compare it like at a large scale, but to keep it to a micro at a Colorado level, like what a drastic improvement based upon what it's been.
It's been a while. Yeah, for sure.
All same.
Listen, I thought Baylor picked their spots though, right? And I thought Preston Hodge and DJ McKinney both struggled a little bit last night
Okay.
with a team that typically has really athletic receivers, by the way. And,
Mhm.
and that Monterey Baldwin kid, like he's right in line with those guys that have done really well down there. So that play he made down there going into that was the south end zone. That was a hell of a catch. So yeah, they picked their spots on him, but you're right in terms of stopping the run. Outside of that 45-yard run they gave up to the quarterback, he accounted for nine carries, 92 yards. 45 was his long. So you have to put this into perspective in terms of
Yeah.
how well they played against the run. So, outside of the big plays that they gave up in the passing, I know well, if you take away the big play in the passing game, you take away the punt return,
Right.
you
Right.
played a perfect game, which you can't do that. But outside of those big plays, and then obviously the third phase of the game would let them down in
Yeah.
special teams. I think they played a really, really solid football game. But momentum is a real thing in sports.
Yeah, and I'm just impressed, man, because look, Robert Livingston was a guy you and I had a question mark on when they hired him. It's like, where where
Who?
where did Coach Prime find him?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was Mike Zimmer's recommendation, because we knew that they were waiting for Zimmer. At least we know they were waiting for Zimmer, and then they lost him because he went to the Cowboys when Dan Quinn went to the Commanders, and
yeah.
now you get the Zimmer recommendation, and look, he has done nothing but pass most every test. There were a couple of like and short calls last night I didn't love. He kind of flattened out everybody at the line, including I think at that 4th and 1 quarterback where they just kind of busted it. But even Coach Prime afterwards said they rep that in practice specifically, and they just busted it in that situation, which happens. So, but outside of like just like tiny little nitpicky things, Kyle, I mean, for 4 games into never having been a defensive play caller, the adjustments he's made, he's getting everybody to buy in. We were talking to Carter Stoutmeyer this week, and I was asking him, like, having a younger DC, does it make a difference? Is there a relatability factor? He's like, oh yeah, this guy was running every gasser with us after the game last week. And look, I mean, that's cool, and you can be the rah-rah guy, but you need substance to back it up, and he's got them both. And I think they've got themselves a gem. Like in the next 10 years, I could see Robert Livingston being a head coach in college football.
Yeah, or even better. And by the way, they might have dodged a bullet with Zimmer because you see what Dallas defense has been doing the last 2 weeks. Yeah, not great.
Can't shake that Cowboys curse, baby.
I'll be damned. But yeah, but there is something to be said about the juice that Livingston has brought to the
Mhm.
team. Because, and listen, that's cool when it works out. Because by the way, I've heard a lot about Florida State practices, and Coach Norvell runs the gases with those guys too, and they're 1-3 last time I checked, barely,
Right.
by the way.
Right.
So,
Which is why you
yeah,
need
yeah,
the
they are
substance,
one.
right?
Yeah, so it sounds good in theory, but yeah, listen, I think the defense is really playing with their hair on fire. A really physical brand of defense, and again, they play a lot of football, and sometimes the time of possession gets turned on them, and so you're going to see plays like the ones that were made against Hodge and the ones that were made against McKinney. But I like that they kept coming back, kept
Right.
fighting, and that's something that you haven't seen in CU pass in the last 10 or 15 years.
Hey, they lose that game last year.
Yeah, it goes all the way away. All the way away.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They don't come back in that one. And they almost didn't last night. Now, I mean, you make a buzzer beater Hail Mary, and we can sit here and have this kind of conversation where it's like, hey, they're 3-1, and wow, they pulled off this miracle. But
Yeah.
that's the margin of a win and a loss, right? It's razor thin. And even Coach Prime acknowledged as much in the post-game presser. He was like, this very easily could have been a different type of press conference, a different type of tone, which again, like you go back to the 4th and 8 call, but the other one, and before I want to hold off some of the other specific situations, I want to break down the end of this game though. So last play, 2 seconds left, right? They're lucky Will Shepherd drops the ball there, Kyle, on the play before, because that game's probably over, right? Clock stops, but you got to race up to the line. The second he sets the ball, blows the whistle, I mean, you're going to be lucky to get off the snap if you can even get everybody lined up. It would kind of just be like a jailbreak, like, get open. You know
It's
what I
not
mean?
happening. It's not
Right,
happening.
right. It's not
The
happening.
football gods giveth and the football gods taketh, right? And so I'm looking at that play like, yeah, he probably doesn't keep his balance, and they're running down the field, and you lose that game in the north end zone, and everybody's head is in their hands. That's
Right,
how that ends. And
right.
so for them to come back and make that play, and listen, did Baylor blow it? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you watch 24 on that play, I don't know who had the end zone view, but they've got ground level end zone, and that safety is 8 yards deep in the end zone. By the way, there was a holding call at about the 20-yard line that they probably could have blown. But yeah, Baylor blew it, but you take advantage of your opponent's mistakes.
Right.
That's football.
Right. And after the game, Travis said that he wanted to almost be a decoy on that play. So they put him on
Sure.
the other side. And, one thing you see in a Hail Mary situation, typically, it's like a game of 500. You just toss it, lob it up, right? But because Baylor played press man, LeJohntay could run a route. And so Shedeur threw a ball to a route instead of just a jump ball, which made a huge difference. And again, even coach afterwards talked about how Baylor forced him to move to his left with being a righty. Kyle moving to the left, he got drilled as soon as he released it. The perfect touch on the ball. And again, LeJohntay getting both of those hands under it, man, with those conditions, that ain't easy. And again, it was almost one of those disbelief moments. I'm sitting there with Nikki Edwards, who works for CU Sports Report and Yahoo. She covers the team. She's great. We're kind of sitting there watching the game, and there's 2 seconds left. I'm like, all right, let's see. Let's see before we get up to the press conference. It's just like those are the type of moments that you watch sports for. It was as electric an atmosphere, honestly, at Folsom that I've ever seen. It was as loud as I've ever heard it in there last night. And I think that probably goes down for me. And then, of course, the overtime play. Travis is just, what else? What else do you want him to do? Does he need to kick? The bus needs somebody to kick off. Should Travis Hunter
Well,
kick off?
well, that was going to be my suggestion for that third phase of the game, right? I don't know if he can absolutely go down there and cover kicks. He can do
Let's just
that. I
take
guarantee.
everyone else off the field, and we're going to put 12 out there. You handle the special teams, and that'll be fine. We'll be good.
That's it. That's
Yep.
it. You got to find a solution there though, because that's going to come back and bite you eventually, because they absolutely gave Baylor opportunities in the special teams game. But
Yeah, let's get that. Let's get there. I want to just 1 second. Let's finish the end of the game. So
sure.
Travis, obviously, Cameron Silman Craig makes a huge tackle on the play before Travis forces the fumble.
Yeah, he
Huge.
played a
And
great game, by the way.
oh, has he
Great
been
game.
good this year or what?
Yeah, he's super physical. You know that it wasn't lip service, that speech he gave at the beginning of the season.
No, it
It really
wasn't.
wasn't.
It
He's been
wasn't.
playing very
No,
well.
no, he's earned the L on the jersey for sure. And
Yeah.
you got to credit Carter Stoutmeyer because and this is no shot at Shiloh, but has anybody noticed that he hasn't been playing?
I wasn't gonna say nothing. I wasn't gonna
Saying
say nothing.
like, but that
Mhm.
speaks to the depth that they have this year that they didn't have last year, right?
Sure.
Like that's important. They're missing Chidozie and Nwankwo up front, who was great early in the season for them. Have you noticed the fact that they haven't had him? How about Taurine Carter from Arkansas? He's like out for the year. Coach Prime said out indefinitely after surgery. Have you noticed he hasn't played? That wouldn't
Yeah.
have been the case last year. So you can see some of their defensive depth shining through. And the test was going to be, okay, we saw it against CSU, but would we see it against Baylor? You know what I mean? Like, would it meet the moment when the price of poker goes up? And I heard a lot of people after the game talk about, well, that's not a good Baylor team. I mean, it's not a great Baylor team, but they still got athletes on that team. That front seven is nasty, and they cause CU a world of hurt. But on that last play, we'll get to a few of the things that we also wanted to talk about. That last play, though, Cam puts Travis in position. We are right there. Kyle, as soon as he knocked the ball out, it was literally as close as you can get to the goal line without being over. I knew instantly. I'm like, it's out, it's out, it's
Yeah.
out. Because we were standing
Well,
right there. But that was unbelievable, man. I mean, what else do you want him to do?
yeah, I didn't know instantly. I'm watching from the house, and you know, if it doesn't go in your favor, obviously you live to play another down in that
Yeah,
situation. But
second overtime.
yeah, so but listen, talk about the play a little bit, because this is Travis Hunter now playing in the box,
Right.
right? And now diagnosing a run play, getting over the top of it, coming downhill, and playing damn near a middle linebacker position, meeting a guy at the point of attack and winning a battle against a guy who he's not supposed to win it against. Because I'm
Right.
sure, I don't know how big that running back is, but I'm sure he's two something, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
He's
yeah.
supposed to go through Travis Hunter. He's
Oh yeah.
supposed to, right? And you just can't say enough about the
Like, well,
physicality, the passion, how much that team rallies around Travis Hunter. Listen,
on that
I wish
play,
they had a trimester Heisman. I really do.
well, he's the Heisman through a quarter of the season, right?
Yeah.
So the wild part about that play is Cam brings him over and puts him in position, and then he kind of like sinks into the middle and somehow sees the back angling to cut outside.
Well, that's where the action went, Matt. The
Right,
action went away, right? And
right,
that's what
right,
backers have to be able to do. And not that he plays backer, right?
right. He's
But
just so
you got
smart,
to
man.
be able to see through the action. Then he gets back over the top of it and comes downhill. Like it was a really I know he's not doing that in practice on Wednesdays because he
No,
doesn't practice.
right, right, right,
So I mean, it's just an instinctive play, Matt. That's all it is. It's football.
right. And it couldn't have been more textbook. Just a hat and the ball. Just get a hat and the ball.
Yeah.
Literally put your hat on the ball. That's all he did.
Yeah.
And that was all she wrote. And honestly, as far as like exciting games at Folsom, I was trying to rack my brain. Obviously CSU last year, but the difference and I said this last night, that the difference between the CSU game last year and last night is I felt like CSU felt more like a huge sense of relief, like, oh, you just averted disaster there, right? Because you did not want to lose to CSU. Last night to me felt like a big step forward. Okay, it was Baylor, but when has CU lost their last six against Power Five programs? Now Power Four programs. They snapped that streak, and that was important. And you had to get a good start to conference play, because guess what? The schedule is going to get tougher, and it gets tougher starting next week, really, at Central Florida. So, backup quarterback or not, I thought Sawyer Robinson played well last night and gave them problems, at different times. Certainly did enough for Baylor to win the game, I thought.
Sure. Sure. It has crossed my mind. Is that a turning point? I'm not going to call it a signature win. That's not a ranked opponent. It's not an opponent that's picked at the top of the conference. I can't go that far just yet. Can it be a turning point for the program? I think there's something to be said about the wins that you've seen in the coach primary, right? They've shown that they can win tight football games. They've
Mm-hmm.
also lost some of those
Some,
tight
yeah,
football
some
games.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about that. And so for all of his misgivings in terms of procedure and game management, can this be the dime that you turn on that takes the program in the right direction? So I won't exclude that from the possibilities. I don't want to call it a signature win. This is not Tennessee beating Georgia. You know what I mean? This ain't that just yet.
Mm.
So, but can
Signature
it be
win thus
something they can
far,
build
though.
on? Say it again.
Signature win thus far, though. Bigger win than TCU, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
TCU was coming off a national championship.
Okay.
And we didn't know that they were going to be a 500 ball club
God, I think it's
at
right
the
up there.
time.
I think just impact wise, it's right up there because they needed that. Because otherwise, it looks different. You go to UCF 2-2. You know, you got
Yeah.
the bye week the next week. It's going to be hard to win next week. And I'm not saying that they won't, but I'll say this though. What it shows me is this as a coaching staff, they're learning to adjust and implement, and they're starting to be able to see the fruits of those changes and those adjustments week to week during the game, which I felt like last year we just didn't see a ton of. Like you're
Sure.
seeing them build slowly. They stack two now. I thought they rushed the ball better last night, but they also rushed the ball better against Colorado State. I don't think they run the ball as well as they did last night if they didn't work on that and develop a little bit of that against Colorado State. Like I thought that was an important growth, at least to me, because they haven't, Kyle. I mean, against North Dakota State, Dallin had 9 carries and Charlie had 5. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just not a running game.
Yeah, and both of those players were healthy scratches last night. So,
Well,
did Hayden?
I think
I heard
Charlie
Hayden
played.
suited.
Charlie played a little bit, and Dallin
Okay,
was suited up, but he did not play. I think he'll be back this week, though.
okay, now, but listen, don't upset the groove now
Oh no, I'm
because
with
I
you.
think Welch and Augusta have been listen. They bring some physicality that they just haven't had there. So
I agree.
you're right. Build on that.
Yeah, but I think throwing Dallin into the mix, you got 3, right? We talked about this a little bit last week. Like, okay, now you have 3. Now you got 3 that you can feel somewhat comfortable with here moving forward, and hopefully they build on it a little bit more and more.
Sure.
Let's talk a little offensive line. I think it was 8 sacks they gave up. I didn't see the final number on that. A ton more pressures, a ton more hits, which is where you kind of go, well, Shedeur didn't play his best game, but man, that might have been his gutsiest performance of his college career thus far. To step up the play before the throw to Wester to tie the game, the one to Shepard, he gets hit so hard that he is literally on the ground, like curled over, just like kind of like rocking back and forth. And I'm like, oh no, well, that's it. It's over. But he pops right back up and makes that throw right afterwards. He's a warrior. He is a warrior. But the problem is, if you ask him to be that warrior every single week, he won't last the season.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It's unfair to ask anybody to do that,
yeah,
and this is. I'm starting to ask myself, okay, how much of this falls at the quarterback's feet? How much of this falls at the play caller's feet? The
yeah,
stat was put up last night: 70% of their plays are passing plays.
yeah,
And so you've got to find a way to protect him from himself because he's going to stare down the gun barrel and he's going to try to make a play for you. And that results in 8 sacks and multiple pressures and hits. And
yeah,
so that eventually starts to add up and take its toll on you. We saw that at the end of last year. And right now, offensive up front, they still just haven't gelled to where they can protect him consistently. I don't know who to talk about first, right? Because I feel like maybe we talk about the right side first, because I feel like that's probably where they're struggling the most between Houston and Benson. But they can't be turnstiles up there, and that hasn't changed from last year.
yeah. Seton had a rough night too last night. I mean, they got some talented guys in that front seven. That was probably Seton's worst game, I thought, of the early season. Justin Mayers got in there a little bit, and they moved Benson over to tackle. They were just trying to do what they could, I think. Houston struggled a bit last night for sure. I don't know what they do there moving forward, but running the ball and scheming around it is a big part of it, right? Moving the pocket, getting these guys, getting Shedeur on the move. I think we could see some more play action involved in their game, but we all know that they got to be better than that. And they're going to be dealing with a lot tougher tests here moving forward. I mean, I had somebody text me this morning. Well, I don't know if they're going to see another defensive line as good as Baylor. That's what I heard about Nebraska. There's good defensive lines in the Big 12 all throughout, right? That's just kind of part of playing big boy college football. And you just got to hold up and be better than that because you've got an explosive offense that's struggling right now, and it's not strictly because of them. Shedeur wasn't great last night. He stepped up in the clutch, and even a bad game for Shedeur is an amazing game for everybody else pretty much in the country. But, I thought misreads early. He acknowledged as much. They didn't do a good job, and he did not do a good job of getting rid of the ball quickly. But I thought part of it was they struggled to get to the quick game, right? Like, I didn't think they ran enough bunch early in the game. I'd like to see them. I sent you that play last week. It's like, hey, quick hitter. Here's an easy concept. Let's get the drive starter. And obviously, a lot easier said than done. But I feel like sometimes it's kind of like pulling teeth with them. And if he has a proclivity sometimes to hold on to the football, well, let's help him get rid of the football with some easier reads and looks and drive starters. And hopefully they can continue to build upon that moving forward. How do you feel about where they're at scheme wise right now?
Defensively, I think they're checking a lot of boxes. Health is going to be something that you're going to continue to keep an eye on, but I love the way they battle. You come back and you look on the offensive side of the ball. I think again, I see the vision. I
Yeah.
wish they had a tight end that they loved. You saw Cherokee Trail, Sam Hart in the game a little bit last night. He got a reception. I wish they could find a way to attach him, add a gap, make an edge player come from a further distance to get to the quarterback. I wish they had some of those things that and that they could do consistently to make things a little easier, because that would help you in the run game as well, to be perfectly honest with you. So, they've got to scheme it up, whether you're going to chip edge players, whether you're going to add tight ends and attach players, but you've got to start scheming up some protections
Yeah.
that are going to keep number two upright, because he is the straw that stirs the drink. You don't win that game, and you're not going to win the next 8 games or even have a shot if you don't have him in the game. So you got to protect your star player, your most valuable asset. So, it's not even the run game. It's not Will Shepherd making a play. I think there's plenty of guys that will jump at the opportunity, or Marion Miller, to make a play. It's not that.
Right.
How can you protect your most valuable asset? You got to scheme it.
Yeah, you do. You do. And you can't wait. Like, it has to start now. And I think they're trying. I think they are. It's way easier said than done, right? Offensive line is the toughest position to develop and coach. We talk about it all the
Yeah.
time. So,
But help them out, Matt, because there's so much. And I talked to you earlier this week about, it's just space,
right.
right? And there's so much 3-by-1 and so much 2-by-2 in their offense, right?
They're
And I
getting better, but
understand,
yeah.
yeah, I understand you want to spread guys out and make them play 53 in the third. I get those concepts, spread and shred, whatever you want to call it. But you got to get somebody in line that
Yeah.
can help you protect your quarterback.
Yeah. Let's talk about special teams real quick. Clearly, the coverage units were a disaster. I don't know what they were doing at the end of the first half. There were 47 seconds left on the clock. Baylor had 3 timeouts.
Go back to
Hey,
the field,
hey,
babe.
Baylor had 3 timeouts. There was 47 seconds left on the clock and they pooched it.
Yeah.
That was wild to me. I know
Yeah.
Feely, and then Feely gets hurt. Obviously, today it comes out he tore his ACL. So I don't know what they're going to do for kickoffs the rest of the year. We've talked about it. They should have gotten another leg. That was an easy one to check off the box. They didn't prioritize it, and it's hurting them immensely right now. And I don't know. What did you make of that? Why pooch there with 3 timeouts? I mean, now credit Colorado's defense for getting them off the field. They didn't trust their coverage units. I get that. But even still, don't you kick the ball as far as you can down the field?
Yeah, that's a question they're answering in Waco right now. you know, listen, I can't even pretend to understand why you would do it.
Yeah.
I'm exploring 1,000 different reasons in my mind, and it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Go upstairs, Pet.
No, she's good. She's good. Anyway,
Um,
I didn't understand that whatsoever from a pooch perspective. It's like, why do that? Like, I know you don't trust them, but somebody kick it as far as you. I mean, you're at altitude. What is this? What are the kickoffs going to look like at sea level?
yeah,
Scares me a little
yeah.
bit to think about. And then, obviously with the 4th and 8, like you're at the 35-yard line. If you had a kicker you trusted, you could put him out there, and then you wouldn't have been in that should I, shouldn't I situation. But you were, because you don't have one that you can trust from range. So,
Well,
um,
but listen now, that's what gets coaches fired, right? Situational football, right? And you see it all over the college landscape. You
yeah,
see it in the pro landscape. When you mismanage games, right? That's when they start, looking for the headhunters and start making calls
right.
for coaches that they can bring in that aren't going to screw it up. You know what I mean? Like, and it's very difficult to live those things down, right? If Miami wins the ACC this year, we're still going to be talking about Mario
You don't
Cristobal.
have to block her out.
Let me get her
That was
upstairs. One
funny. You're
second.
fine.
No,
You're
we'll
fine.
have
You're
to
fine.
pause
You're
the
fine.
Zoom. Stay upstairs.
You seen him. You
Stay
seen him.
upstairs and
That
get
was
your hands off
hilarious.
your hips. Thanks.
Oh, Kyle.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
If Miami goes on and wins
That's
the
good.
ACC this year, we're still like, okay, what am I doing here? Oh, goodness gracious, working
Anyway,
from home.
okay. Yeah, you're good.
Um, we're still Mario Cristobal is still going to have trouble living down some of the decisions that he made last year that led to their defeats. So again, it's situational awareness, and they always talk about in coaches clinics that you go to situational mastery, and how do you win games in the last 4 minutes? Baylor's kicking themselves all the way back to Waco.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And for Colorado, your margin for error is just so thin as you experienced last night. They were able to weather a lot of adversity that normally, at least, of late, they hadn't been. So impressive win to see. Kyle, I appreciate you kind of hopping on. I'm gonna let you go be a dad I'm gonna let you go be a dad the rest of the day. But it was good to see you and good to talk to you since we didn't. And maybe we'll talk a little bit later this week, okay?
I'm with it. Enjoy your week, sir. Be safe.
You too, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.